afternoon, Carl.
Michael Kitces, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm suffering slightly because our air conditioner is on the fritz, and at least as of when we're recording, it's fall, but still early fall, so it's warmer outside than inside, which means the house has slowly been heating all day long. So if I'm like schwitzing as we go here, pardon my my warmth,
Yeah,
my unnatural warmth, because modern conveniences are an amazing thing and I miss them the moments
yeah.
that they're not working.
It's funny, we have the heat on today. It's 41 degrees this morning when I woke up.
Wow.
Yeah,
That
which is great. We love it. It's super
that
good.
sounds lovely for you folks in
Yeah,
the mountains.
yeah, for sure.
So I wanted to talk today and get your perspective around a really interesting kind of like data tidbit we found as we've been going through some of our productivity research data. So we do series of 4 studies on the Kitces platform and around advisor research, one on marketing, one on the tech that advisors use, one on well-being, and one on advisor productivity, which kind of gets to like process, pricing, what we do, how we charge, and all that.
Hmm.
And the team had put forth this very interesting kind of working hypothesis that, or I guess research question. We didn't quite have a full hypothesis yet, like a research question. So when you look at advisory firms that do investment management and financial planning, like broadly speaking, I can kind of put them into 2 core camps. The bundlers, who just charge like one aggregate AUM fee that covers all the investment management and financial planning, and the folks who charge separate. I've got an AUM fee for my investment management, and then I've got a financial planning fee for the financial planning portion. In theory, in theory, these should add up to be the same because I'm still doing the same body of work and I still need the same amount of revenue. So we kind of hypothesize like, okay, if advisor A is a bundler who charges 1% on $1 million client, and advisor B charges a $3,000 planning fee, then they'll probably have like a 70 basis point AUM fee on the same client so that they get $7,000 of AUM fees and $3,000 of planning fees, which adds up to 10, which is the same price as the bundler charging 1% on $1 million. So we kind of came with this in with this research question. If we actually look at the bundlers versus the separate chargers, do the bundlers' fees still end up being similar to the separate charging fees? Or do we find some differences, right? Like maybe the advisors who charge separately for planning charge so much more for planning that they don't just make up the difference in their AUM fees. They actually end up higher because they're like pricing the full value of their planning. Or maybe it would go the other direction. 2 fees makes people more fee sensitive than 1 fee. So we could also tell the story. Well, maybe if you have a planning fee and an AUM fee, clients just get like overfeed and you actually end up with lower total fees because they're just exhausted by your big old stack of fees compared to if you just did like one super simple AUM fee. So we could make the case either way, that it could add up to more or it could add up to less, which, being the research nerds we are, is like, cool, we got data. Let's just go swim in the data and see what we find. And what we found was a very big surprise to us.
Hmm. I can't wait.
So, I actually didn't mean to like make it as big of a build up as that sort of ended up being. So there were 2 things that showed up in the data.
Yeah.
The first was advisors charging separately had fees that added up to more than the bundlers.
Hmm.
So the advisors who were charging separately seemed to just have kind of firmer overall pricing than the bundlers, which sort of implies at least a segment of firms that are bundling their planning into their AUM may be undercharging in their aggregate fees, because it turns out if you can be clear about the value of investment management, the value of financial planning, you set a fee for both, it tends to add up to more.
Hmm.
But the very surprising thing that we found when we then drilled in further and said, how does this break down? Like, how much, the implication is like the separate fee guys drop their AUM fee a little because they're charging a separate planning fee, but then they like raise their planning fee by more to make it up. And so we were trying to figure out where that trade-off is. Is it like you charge half the AUM fee, but a really big planning fee? Do you just like slightly cut the AUM fee, but you add a medium-sized planning fee? And what we found when we drilled into the data is that advisors who charge separate planning fees flat out have higher AUM fees on top of their planning fees. So for $1 million client, a firm that does a lot of planning work in practice, when you calculate the blended fee schedule, typically ends out charging about 85 to 90 basis points. Some advisors are 1%, but some advisors are like, I got a break point at $500,000 or 750. So we mix all the data together, like firms that were doing planning work that bundled together usually average out with an average blended fee somewhere in the 85 to 90 basis point range. Firms that charged a separate planning fee averaged a full 1% on the AUM on top of the planning fee. So they're not just charging a planning fee to make up for an AUM discount. They're charging a planning fee and they're charging higher AUM fees on average on top of it. So from the business end, this actually leads to some very, very good business economics. So we found some like very strong profitability and economics numbers coming out of this. But the sort of underlying finding that we were seeing, and we end out with a couple of other data points on this to support in this direction as well, is that some advisors just seem to have a lot more what I'm now calling fee confidence than others. And advisors who have fee confidence are charging full valued AUM fees and full valued planning fees. And advisors who are struggling with fee confidence tend to roll it all into one, because it's easier to talk about one fee than two, and tend to discount down their bundled fee further because we're not feeling confident in saying, I charge you 1%, or I charge you 1, or like, you know what, we're actually an above average advisor. So just to be clear, I charge an above average fee. You pay a premium fee for everything else that you buy that's a premium offering. And we charge a premium fee because we're an above average advisor, says basically no one. In theory, that's how it should work, but that's not what we do. We say like, I charge an above, I provide above average value for a below average fee, which is not really a sustainable business model in pretty much any industry. So we're honing in on this direction that fee confidence seems to be a remarkable driver of how well firms are performing financially, how they're doing from a productivity perspective, how they're doing from a profitability perspective, just how they're doing from a sustainability perspective. Because when you actually charge full value for your fees, you can afford to hire and expand the team. You can afford to reinvest in the services for clients. You can afford to market and tell the whole world how awesome your services are for all the people who haven't heard of you before, because you've got some free cash flow, because you're actually charging the full price that it takes to do and deliver sustainably high quality financial planning and investment management and wealth management. Right. So I guess this, at a high level, we see the numbers emerging, and once we realize like this is showing up as a fee confidence thing, we're seeing it all over the place. The caveat is I'm not actually sure why some of us are so much more fee confident than others. I mean, I can come up with a lot of guesses. But I'm curious, I guess, both for your thoughts around, I don't know, just like whether the idea of fee confidence resonates with you, and how you think about like, why do some people have it? Why do others not? Like, how do we help the ones that don't to get there? Right. There's a lot that comes with fee confidence.
That's really, really interesting. And I love the name of it. I know it's so interesting and I don't know what to make of this, because it's been something I've been wondering about for 20 years. Like, if you're an advisor and you charge an AUM fee, and you've been charging an AUM fee for the last 20 years, you're already an above average. Like, your fee is more than at least in the minds of a consumer, I can go get the thing that you bill for. Again, there's all sorts of nuance around this, I know, but like I can go get the thing that you bill for, AUM, cheaper elsewhere, like dramatically cheaper now. It's always been cheaper, but dramatically cheaper now. And then historically, we have, and I remember having clients say this to me. It's like, your business is so weird. You guys bill for the thing that feels like a commodity, and you give away all the things that feel like they're the most valuable. Your planning and your advice and tax planning and talking to my kids and all of this clarity around values and goal clarification. Like you give that away. And we would say, no, no, it's all part of this. We just bill. But in their minds, they're connecting because it's an AUM fee. They're connecting it to asset management. So there's always been an element of fee confidence we've had to deal with, right? There's always been, because if you've been charging for something that some people think you can just go get for a lot less, there's always been an element. And you've always had, and then the other thing that comes into charging fees in our industry, which is so interesting, is, you know, we all know the direct correlation between lifetime success. If all other things equal, right? If you're paying 1% a year, you have less terminal value at the end, all other things being equal, right? If the advisor doesn't add any value, all other things being equal, I just want to repeat that 7 times so nobody misquotes me. All other things being equal, you have less. So there's like this in your head, you can read those stories as, when I charge fees, I'm directly this is in direct conflict to the goal that I want to help people reach. So it's always been a big question of mine, like, wow, how do we do that? So I think the idea of fee confidence, being clear about the difference you make, and that the way you charge fees and the amount you charge, which is what we're talking about here, it tells a story. And to me, the most important part about it is you should be really, if there's part of that story that you want to remain hidden, or part of that story that you're not confident in or comfortable having people know, well, then you need to think about how you charge fees and how you feel about fees. You need to work through that, right?
Well, I would highlight, I mean, this doesn't necessarily have to be, or it's not meant to be, a knock against the AUM model.
For sure.
You know, if all the above average advisors did was charge 1.3%, the numbers would all jive.
Mm-hmm.
But very few of us do that. Right? In theory, there should be a lot of above average advisors with above average fees delivering above average value, right? You can come up with any industry from cars to hotels. There's plenty of premium brands where you pay more and you get more. Or you pay more and get extra quality or extra convenience or extra something that makes you pay way above average because it's worth it and I can afford it. And I mean, I think we've observed this on a prior episode here that to me, there's a remarkable dearth of advisors that proudly charge a premium. I am an above average advisor and you will pay an above average fee and it's still worth every penny. What's striking to me as we dig into this data is when we try to figure out, like, where are the advisors that do have the, I guess, like, we'll call it like the confidence to be premium. They're not showing up by charging higher AUM fees. They're not showing up by just charging much higher AUM fees. They're showing up by charging slightly higher AUM fees and a planning fee. And I don't know if that's because it's a more comfortable client conversation. Right? You could still say, we charge basically 1%, like, quote, like everybody else. And look at all the planning work we do, and it has a separate planning fee. So I don't know if that's an easier story to tell from the advisor end than just explaining 1.3% or 1.5%. I don't know if maybe there is either some client pushback to higher AUM fees or more willingness to do like a 2 fees, 2 services thing. Again, I'm not even sure whether this comes from the clients or whether we're just sort of inflicting this upon ourselves, as it were. But I guess framed another way, like when I go and try to find where are the proudly premium advisors who charge an above average fee for an above average service, in practice, they're charging a full valued AUM fee and a planning fee on top. That
Hmm.
seems to be where they are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And what do you, oh, well, yeah, just one comment. They're one of my favorite people in the world is a guy named Blair Enns. And Blair he wrote a book called The Win Without Pitching Manifesto,
Yep.
and another book called Pricing Creativity. I think Blair is really the world expert, and I don't say that lightly, world expert on pricing creative services and maybe even larger pricing advisory services. And he's over the last 5 or so years, he's been doing more and more in our industry. And one thing he told me a little while ago, he noticed that he said the same thing. He's like, "Oh, is this so interesting that people are charging for a commodity and giving away the really valuable stuff?" He's like, all I'm doing is saying, that's fine, continue to charge for the commodity, but why don't you start putting prices on these other things that you're doing, especially if it's
Yeah.
going to be a new client or a new offering. Hey, we're thinking about doing tax. Oh, we'll just roll into the AUM fee. He's like, no, 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 no. What? And he said, I have been shocked how elastic, how willing people are to pay for services that they really value.
Yep.
If obviously, if done well and are real and not, we're not smoke and mirrors here. So I think there's a lot more room in our businesses to be pricing our services for what they're worth. Now, his challenge was, in a creative world, like he could go to an ad agency and say, what would be the result of this? Or a company was hiring an ad agency and they'd say, well, we'd see this much increase in revenue. And then it's suddenly like, okay, well, we can price our value is somewhere in there. In our world or in interior design, he consulted with my wife because my wife's an interior designer. It's a little harder to put a direct number
Yep.
on the impact that you would have as an interior designer or as a financial advisor, right? But it's still there. Like,
Yep.
and in fact, it's harder because it's often priceless. What I mean? Like, what would you pay? What would you pay to not have to worry anymore?
So so here's what I'd like to ask you if you're like comfortable going here with me. So I have to presume you've lived a version of this journey yourself because you charge a pretty darn healthy speaking fee. And I have to presume there's a point when you got started when like most folks that do speaking, it's like, wait, you'll actually put me on a plane and I don't have to pay my own airfare? Like, sure, I'll show up.
Somebody will listen to
I can
me.
just I give me $100 so I can say I'm a quote paid speaker. So
Right.
so you've lived a version of this journey, right? Where, I mean, to be fair, I think almost everybody has very little fee confidence at the beginning because we just really like don't
Yeah.
know that much, and imposter syndrome is rampant and all that good stuff. There was something that changed for you because you went from the not fee confident state that virtually everybody is in at the beginning to a fee confident state now.
Hmm.
I guess to the extent you can, I don't know, like think back or reflect on the journey,
Yeah.
what changed? Like, what were the conditions that brought about a change in your confidence in fees and what you
Yeah, it's still to me, it still feels a lot the same, which is I
okay?
well, here, so first I remember when my book agent, when the first speaking stuff started happening after the book. Now, before the book, it was like, industry stuff, and it was kind of that, like, well, what do you pay? Oh, great. But then when the book came out, my agent was like, oh, you need to charge something that matters. We want 80% of the people to say no, but we also want it to be low enough. And I was like, where? And I can't remember what the number was, but I think it was 12,000 or something. And I was like, what? Or maybe it was five, like whatever it was. I was like, did you say low and that number in the same sentence? Are you crazy? And I remember just being very like self-conscious about it. And so what I did then, and I still have to occasionally do this now when I'm feeling a little under-resourced, or maybe I'm tired or I've had a bad week or whatever, and I go give a talk, is I've got to rely on external evidence. And by external evidence, I mean, like, what do people say? What do the organizers say
Hmm.
afterwards? What do they call those surveys, or like speaker rating
Yeah,
surveys
like
things?
benchmark. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The feedback from the audience.
Yeah, like when you fill out a thing, like you got to rely on that a bit. And then it got to the point where I got so, now what I do in speaking is, honestly, it's so different from what almost anybody else does, especially in our industry, that because it's so different, it feels very uncomfortable for me, because I'm like, it'd just be easy to do the same thing. And then I would be like, okay, well, so I've kind of tried to think of it as like I could give a B plus, a B talk all the time, or maybe a C plus talk all the time, and just kind of be safe. Or I could every once in a while, and I luckily I haven't had this happen as far as I'm aware, but I could risk it going really badly so that it would be like A plus every once in a while, right? And so far I haven't had it go really badly, but the result of that is I'm still left with the same feeling, because there's not a lot of benchmarks, there's not a lot of comps, there's not a lot of, so I still go back to external evidence, which is a bummer. And one thing I would say is, like, no amount of external evidence will ever fill the hole inside of you. Like, if you're wondering about your value, it doesn't matter how many times people tell you you're great.
Mhm.
So I just use it as one little piece. And then now I've gotten so comfortable that I know the result. And I know the result isn't largely, it's not about me. It's about creating space for people. And so I know the space will do the work. And so now as a planner, I would be saying the same thing. Like, gosh, so I used to keep a Stoke file as a financial advisor. I keep it now too.
Stoke.
I literally a Stoke file, like in the mountains or skateboarding, like you're stoked, you're super excited, like
Okay.
something that get you. I'd keep a file. It literally said Stoke, and it would be in my filing cabinet, and you had one of those. Now I have one on the computer. And anytime anybody sent anything good, like when a client would send a letter or a card,
Hmm.
I'd put it in the Stoke file. And if I was feeling bad about fee, like if I was having a problem with fee confidence, I would open up the Stoke file. And then I'd go, oh, that's right. Like, what's that worth? What's that? Oh my gosh, that thing that they told me about, the trip they took, they used the word life changing. I mean, I only billed them 15,000 that year. I changed their lives. Like, that's the kind of self talk I would do using the Stoke file to rebuild fee confidence.
So what I hear in this conversation is the role that external evidence plays.
Yeah, it's a
Seems
slippery
to,
slope, by the way. I just want to be careful with it, but I think if used
yeah.
strategically, it can be very helpful.
And I hear it in two veins. There's the benchmarking, the comparables. What do other people charge? What other people do, right? What do other speakers charge? According to the book people, $12,000.
Whatever the number was.
So there's an external aspect of kind of benchmarking and what's the market in the first place,
Hmm.
which I suppose helps to explain, like, the overwhelming majority of us charge 1% because the overwhelming majority of us charge 1%. So we have natural validation to charge 1%. And if you're a little bit not confident in your fee, you charge slightly less than 1% because everybody else charges 1% and are slightly cheaper. Uh, the second part that strikes me, right, there's two groupings of external evidence, or at least external relative to us as the individual. There's what is the market charge, other speakers in your context, other advisors, and we have benchmarking studies out there around it. The other version of external evidence is what's the feedback of the people that you're serving. And if they love it and are raving about it, maybe that means we don't charge enough. Or that they would very willingly pay more because they seem to value us quite a bit for the fees that we charge. Maybe that means we're not even charging our full value. I try to be careful of the, like, not, well, they love it. It's like, let's gouge the crap out of them. Like, this is all
Right,
from the positive vein of, if
right.
you're that freaking valuable, it's okay to charge your full value because it just makes it easier to do this sustainably, to expand your team, to further deepen your services, to keep going down this path when you charge what it actually takes and what it's actually worth. So I kind of hear two pieces. There's comparables with the big caveat that, at least as generically drawn, like comparables are averages. If you're above average or you're becoming above average, either you need to try to benchmark what the above average fee is, or you need to look to the people that you charge to get affirmation that nobody's complaining about the fee, or very, very few people are complaining about the fee, because there's always some client that complains about the fee. You could charge them 3 basis points. They'd be like, well, I can get something else for 2. Are clients good with the fee? And if anything, are they, such positive raving fans that maybe I'm actually undercharging them because the evidence is literally the feedback they're giving me about how much they like me. And if I'm not sure, make a Stoke file for regular reminders.
Yeah. Yeah. And deep sort of empathy for the challenge. Like we got to keep, because here's the other thing to keep in mind is everywhere you look, people are telling you you're not valuable. Like in the press, sorry, people other than your clients and your spouse. The press doesn't understand exactly what we do. Like real financial advisors, people who are doing real work, you're changing people's lives, right? Having conversations that they never had before, helping them get clear about things, let alone the tax benefit and the investment behavioral coaching and all the tactical stuff that we do that's insanely valuable and worth it by itself. But just getting somebody help with goal clarification over time so they end up where they want is so valuable. So I think remember just finding a way to remind yourself of that when you're often being told the opposite, because people are comparing it to, some risk tolerance out pops a portfolio, whatever we call it online now. So yeah, I think that's important. It's important. This is super fun.
I think it's powerful to recognize as well, per your comment, like that nagging fear, that lingering bit of imposter syndrome, like it doesn't go away.
Right, right. It doesn't. Even as soon as you brought it up, I was like, oh my gosh, I still feel it.
Which I think gets back to, so you need to collect the positive feedback from the people that you work with to give yourself the personal pep talk, get stoked.
Yeah. Yeah. And remember, like imposter syndrome, the like classic definition is, having a really hard time internalizing your own value despite external evidence to the contrary. So I think you just have to kind of train yourself to, when you have that external evidence, keep it and just tell yourself, because what the voice in your head is going to say, yeah, they're lying. They didn't mean that. And you got to just train yourself to be like, well, okay, maybe, but that would also be kind of weird to send a handwritten note if you were lying. So, at a certain point, and then obviously if it's a real problem, there's legit reasons for this to be a conversation with a trained professional around your own value. Like I think therapy around this is a legit reason. And especially a lot of us that came up into this industry, often we got into this industry because we had our own problems we wanted to solve.
Yeah.
So, you may already have some money stories that are challenging for you, and you layer on top of that your fee, your value. Like think of the words we're using, like your value. That can quickly, like the fee you charge can quickly start to translate into your self-worth. Well, that's really, really, really dangerous terrain. Or sorry, really treacherous terrain.
Well, thank you, Carl. It's a good discussion, an interesting note to finish on for people maybe to ponder. Are there other parts of your history and relationship with money that's feeding into this conversation as well?
Yeah. Yeah. And how could it not? You know what I mean?
True.
Cheers.
Thank you, Carl.
Okay, bye, Michael.